Oh, so that was at a glacier up in Colorado where we had to crack through this ice, and it was about like an inch and a half thick. Like the whole runoff, frozen over, and everyone else around us is bundled up. It's like 30, 40 degrees out. Everyone's in full jackets, and we're climbing this summit in t-shirts and shorts. And people are going down the hill as we're coming up, and they're like looking at us strange, you know? It's like, what are these people?
Why?
So, we get to there and we start cracking through the ice with a rock. We had to get a rock and literally pound through this ice to chip through.
They didn't take like any mount?
No, we didn't have an axe with us. And so we just broke through, and then it was funny because we started to generate like an audience. You know, people saw us getting in and they were like, what are these people doing? And it's exciting. So that was then, but that was after the trip. So I just got back from the master's course from the Wim Hof Academy. And it was a 6-day event. I had to do the advanced course, which is a 2-day course in LA. And I did that last May. And this past May. And so this was intense, man. It got really personal.
What do they have you doing?
So it started out with, you know, Wim being there and just telling us about what he's up to, you know, like giving us an update on the different research projects he's doing. He's got stuff with MIT, Harvard, and Stanford projects. And we did a lot of breathing. We found like there's a new type of breathing that goes right into your brain, and it stimulates it in a way that like helps eliminate depression immediately. So it's called like neurostimulation conscious something. I gotta get the right name, but essentially you use that protocol and you can go right into eliminating depression chemically. You know, like you change the chemistry of your brain, and then you just can't be sad because it's not allowed. And so anyways, we started with that, and then it was also an instructor certification, so we were being trained how to do workshops and how to present. So there was a lot of personal presentations where everyone got to share their like story about how the Wim Hof method personally affected them. We also did like training exercises with how to do yoga positions, like head balancing. But what was really exciting was when we got to go into the water. Yeah. And yeah, it started out with Casper. He's like the main instructor for the Wim Hof Academy. And he's got a company called Mindlift. So Casper told everyone, wear all your warm gear. You know, we're going to walk down to the water reserve, and we're going to do the water exercises in the cold. And it's like 26 degrees out, I think. It's like 9:30 a.m. And he says, wear all your warm gear. A few of us, including myself, said, we're going to tough this out. Like, you know, let's challenge ourselves. That's why we're here, is to get into the cold. Right. So I packed all my warm gear, but I wore a bathing suit and my t-shirt. My Wim Hof shirt that says, the cold is my warm friend. And I'm like, here we go. This is the time to test it out. And we start walking outside, and my buddy Brad, he's already out there in shorts, no shoes on. You know, he's going to walk this trek with just his shorts. I'm like, wow, this guy's a beast. Here we go. Stay motivated. So we start this walk, and it's supposed to be a 20-minute walk. Now, it ends up being like a 45-minute to an hour hike up and down, around, to get to this water reserve. And Casper then starts to instruct us how we're going to get into the water. He instructs us how we're going to warm up, you know, doing the different breathing exercises and like a few different stretches, and to help stimulate us. Then we all, you know, got into our bathing suits and got in the water. But so from my perspective, I thought this was going to be a 20-minute hike, and I'm in shorts and a t-shirt. So by the time we finally got there, I touched my arms, and they're cold. Like, the tissue is just deeply cold. And I'm like, and now I'm going to get in the water? Holy moly, this is crazy. You know, this is, so like my tissue, I feel it, and it's like cold. It's like if I just put an ice pack on my arm for like 15 minutes, and you take it off and you feel that, and you're like, wow, that's cold. Well, my whole body was kind of feeling that way, right? At least my arms were. And we walk with our arms behind our back like this, and it keeps your hands cold. So that's really the toughest thing is in the cold, your blood starts to constrict away from your limbs and go into your belly to help keep your organs warm, so you can keep alive. So the goal is well, your fingers will get colder quicker. So we put them together and put that on your skin by your kidneys, and that keeps it nice and pretty warm. So anyways, my arms, though, were out in the wind, and they were freezing. So I'm like, okay, this is the challenge, you know. Here we go. So we start the breathing. We're standing there in a big circle, getting charged up. And then he's like, all right, walk in. So we all, as a group, start walking into the water reserve and get in the water. And sure enough, man, like that, it's 33 degrees. The water's just like right above freezing, and it's cold. It's cold. And I'm cold. And
Did you try to pee to make yourself warmer?
No, you can't even think about peeing to make yourself warm. Not a chance. That's funny. No. So he starts off by saying, I want you to keep your hands out of the water while you do this. Well, I had already been practicing before that, keeping my hands underneath my knees on the skin, and it's actually pretty warm. So my fingers feel warm in the water, even though it's cold, but I keep them in the water. So I'm doing that for a while, and then I finally look around, and I see the whole group all has their hands out of the water. So I'm like, you know, let me join in, you know, let me get in March. And so I take my hands out, and I put them up. And as soon as the air touches the cold water of my hands, freezing, man. And I just start shivering.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And I look around and everyone else is shivering. And you could just see the ripples on the water of everyone just shivering. But I will say this. Casper did such a great job. He was coaching us through the experience. You know, telling us to do a breathing, telling us when to dunk our head underneath the water, because it helps stimulate a more intense heating response. It's called the mammalian dive reflex. And when you put the water on your face, your body really gets charged. So he coached us through that, and then he coached us through going through the discomfort, finding a new zone of territory, which was like, you're not hypothermic yet. Like, yes, I see you guys are cold, but I know that you guys aren't in danger. I know you guys are still safe. And when I heard that, it just gave me a new comfort. I was like, this is pretty intense. This is pretty intense. But he comforted me, and and then I got through it. And then we got out of the water, and then we started our warming up process. My feet feel like bricks. I mean, my toes are literally stiff, frozen. I'm walking on these bricks. My hands are so cold. Everything's cold. We're shivering. He's telling us to go into the shiver, to use it to even stimulate more energy out of it. And slowly but surely, after we did some breathing and heating, we finally were like, okay, that was done with the challenge. Let's put on our warm gear and let's hike back. That's when things got interesting, because you're so cold, you almost feel like it's scary cold. You know, it really is. And all you want to do is get warm. So I had everything kind of laid out, to quickly put it on as soon as I was ready. And I started to put on my wool sock, and because I was still a little damp, the wool caught and it wouldn't slide on, and I was like, oh man, I just wanted to get on, I'm so cold. But what happened was, I was so cold that I had to just literally stop and focus even more. You know, like get even more in depth with like making sure that when I do this next try, it's just going to be perfect, and just pull it on. And all right, that one's on. Let's do the other one. One try. Can't do it another try. It's got to be this one time. Boom. Put on the sweatpants, put on the jacket. I'm still shivering underneath it.
Yeah.
But I know I'm like I'm ready to come back to warmth. And that was the hardest challenge for me, I think, throughout this week there. That was like the third or fourth day. So we had been doing breathing and like yoga and lots of chatting and discussing like what the goal is for inner fire.
Yeah.
And that was the toughest day for me. It was intense. But I found a new level of comfort. Like now that I did it and I survived, like I didn't lose any fingers or toes, you know, I felt energized afterwards, that it made me realize like my body can handle it. I can withstand it, you know, and that was like a whole conditioning thing. Where before, even a cold shower in Miami, which the water here is not cold, sadly. It's like out the tap, it's like 65 degrees.
Yeah.
And what really is like getting into like a medicinal level of water temperature is like 55 and below.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have to use a cooling agent in Miami or in Florida really to like get some benefits, which stinks, but whatever. So yeah, I hated the cold water, even at 65 degrees, and then slowly by, you know, exposing myself gradually, little by little, I was able to do that challenge. And then from there, I could do other things. And, you know, and I'm still growing, and soon I'm going to go to Poland. I'm going to Czech Republic and Poland. And did I tell you this? Yeah, so check this out.
Yeah.
Casper, the main instructor, is doing a deep dive Poland exploration. And he's doing a 6-day intensive course where you go out there and he's going to take you through the different breathing and meditation and getting into the cold, of course. We're going to climb Mount Szneczka, which is like if you YouTube Wim Hof, you look on Vice or any of the other videos, and you see all the mountains that he's climbing mostly,
Yeah.
it's Mount Szneczka, which is right on the border of Poland and the Czech Republic. And so I'm super excited about this. I mean, this is a cool step for me because now that I'm a certified instructor, I'm going to use this opportunity to have Casper kind of mentor me. You know, I'm going to go there and like ask to be mentored, ask for any kind of training that he will help provide me, because when I come back to the United States, I want to be able to use those tips here. So yeah, that's what's with that. Now what else with Colorado, man? Wow, Wim. How about Wim?
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
This guy is crazy. And he says, yeah, I'm crazy about life. So here's the deal. Wim is just like amazing. He's really like on top of changing things in the world
How old
right.
is he?
He's 57. And he's so energized. I'm 27. He probably is younger than me with spirit. You know, like he really is just like a kid. And I got to dance with him. You know, we were playing some music, and he's breaking down doing the robot, and you get in there jamming with him. Oh, we did a cool breathing and like jam circle, you know, drum circle. We had everyone beating on the drums, and Wim was in the middle with this spirit drum, just boom, boom, hitting it and chanting some Indian chants, and it was just like, man, his energy is wild.
Were you guys just camping out? Or what?
No, so check this out. We got to go to the YMCA up in, where was it? Up in the northwest of Boulder. We were up in the mountains, the highest point in coldest area in Colorado, and it's at the YMCA there, at Snow Mountain Ranch, and we rented a giant cabin. that was kind of like a dorm kind of set. You know what I mean? It had different bedrooms, and I had a room with like 6 other guys, bunk beds. It was awesome. You know, it was like being at summer camp with all these crazy people. Like this guy, David, he's a strongman, and he bends nails and can bend horseshoes into like a heart, and rip. He can rip decks of cards and phone books, all that stuff. I mean, he's super strong. Yeah, David. Man, this guy is unbelievable. Then we had this other guy, Christian, from Denmark, and he's running the Wim Hof. He's going to be a Wim Hof instructor in Denmark, the only one. Then we had my buddy Ricardo, who's from Washington State, up north of Seattle. And he's like a professional skier. He's been skiing his whole life all over the world, you know, just living the dream. Okay. And then guess what? Who else was there? These guys from Collective Evolution. So there's like this Facebook group and website group called Collective Evolution, and they do like outside the normal media, mainstream media, whatever they're recording. You know, this is like the conspiracy stuff, you know, the far out stuff.
Yeah.
The 2 people that run that, Giovanni and Coletti, they were both there and were rooming with me. So it was really cool to like have these guys that have like millions of subscribers just hanging out, chatting about politics. You know, the election was just going on during that time. So, you know, as a group, we got to talk on like a higher level of like consciousness of what we think is happening and what's going on in the world. So that was interesting. So that was the living quarters, and we shared like a communal kitchen, and we all cooked and ate together, and it was just like a big happy family. I mean, there was 27 of us.
It's a lot bigger than I thought.
Yeah, there was 27 of us, and everyone's just got a super unique story. I mean, like we got people that have been doing yoga for 30 years, doctor, chiropractor, Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighters.
What were the like age ranges?
So I was the youngest. I'm the youngest instructor for the United States, 27. And then I think maybe the oldest was in the 50s. You know, and it ranged from, you know, 30 to 40. Yeah. But great group of people. I mean, I'm just totally honored to be a part of that and call these people my colleagues. You know what I mean? It's really a blessing. And I'm just so impressed by what they've done and their whole careers, and it's just like a motivation for me, and everyone's just willing to share and contribute, you know, like everyone's trying to lift each other up. So it wasn't about like, there was no ego. Everyone was there to just like help each other. So I'm so happy to be a part of this group. And so that was the master's course. Yeah. And that was 6 days. And then after that, we had to take an exam while we were there, a written exam. We had to do a presentation, and then stick it out, you know, make it work. And then, so once we completed that, then we had to write an essay. And once we did that, they reviewed it, revised it, let us know. We just, on December 15th, got the first announcement that, you know, I'm a certified trainer.
Nice.
Yeah.
So then, what can you, does he still have like other classes for you to take, or you just?
No, so at this point, as a certified instructor, I can put on workshops, 4-hour workshops, 5-hour workshops, where we spend the day doing yoga and breathing and mindful meditation. And we then finish with getting in the ice bath. So like I'll teach everyone the ins and outs of the method. Yeah. You come to me and we'll discuss, you know, what does the cold and heat do to the body physiologically? Then, and make sure that everyone understands that. And then, because it's important for the method. You know, it's simple enough that you can get it. It's just, I got to share that with you. Yeah. And then we'll do some breathing in between that. Maybe do a little discussion about the breathing. Yeah. Have a nice organic lunch. You know, have it catered with a chef. Cook some organic food. Provide that as a lunch. And then finish the rest of the day with another yoga session with breathing again. And finish with an ice bath. So everyone that would come has the opportunity to get in the ice bath and experience, you know, the whole method as a complete product. Yeah. package.
Right.
And so that I'm able to do that now immediately. And I'm excited to do that, and especially here in Miami. I think it would be a great place to, have people get into the cold. Personally, growing up here and looking back and getting little colds and flus during high school and middle school, I think that could have been prevented, like doing this cold water method, and the breathing, of course, because the breathing is what helps stimulate the adrenaline in your body, and it helps with your immune system. So you do the breathing to help stimulate your immune system, and then you add the cold, which just magnifies the effects. So if I had used that during growing up in Miami, I think I would have prevented some colds. I really do. Since I've started, I really don't get sick anymore, like at all. And if I feel the symptoms, I just start breathing. I literally do what Wim did when he got the injection for the E. coli bacteria. So he needed to prove that he could control his nervous system. The way he did that was they injected him with the wall of the E. coli bacteria. That gives you the effects of like influenza. You're like, you got the flu, you're sweating, you're throwing up, you're shivering, you're really sick. Wim Hof only got a headache during that experience. And he did his breathing during that lab. While he was doing the research, all he did was his breathing, and he felt that. So my point is, I want to help introduce that back into Miami, because we don't have that much cold water here. So if I can start getting people to use the method by doing cold showers, or I do the ice baths at a facility, a yoga studio, or wherever, that at least will give people an outlet to getting into the cold. And I know there's cryotherapy going on, but even Wim is quoted saying that he thinks that that's an unnatural process. Sure, if that's your only way to get cold, fine, so be it. But he's saying that like the cold water versus the cold air is like different on the way it affects your body. And like to put it in perspective, like getting into 33-degree water is intense. There's a reason why the nitrogen has to get down to 150, negative 150, because it needs more cold to get like a same effect. It's not as powerful as the cold. And he says it's also dry. So where was I?
Nitrogen.
Oh yeah, so he's saying that when you use the cryotherapy, that it's too dry for your skin. It's like a dry cold versus a wet cold. And so he prefers the water. And I think it would be great for me to bring that to Miami. And I think there's a lot of health enthusiasts here. And so that's kind of my goal. And then the other exciting thing I have going on is, with Living Web Farms, with the organic farming education, we're trying to help introduce wellness and fitness education. And Wim Hof Method is all about that. Wim Hof Method is happiness, strength, and health. It's those three pillars of happiness, strength, and health are really like what Wim thinks is the embodiment of love. So when you have health and you have happiness and you're feeling strong, then that kind of character that you exude, that energy that you're carrying, is what he says is like a loving energy. So if you use the method, you can tap into each one of those pillars. You can manage your health by doing the exercises. You can manage your health by doing the breathing. You can manage your happiness with the breathing, because you can actually release dopamine. You can get yourself high by doing the breathing protocols. So it gives you the opportunity that if you're feeling down, it's a rainy day and you want to feel a little bit lighter in your body and your spirit, you do the breathing. And then the strength, that again comes with the yoga. It comes with getting in the cold and letting the cold strengthen your circulatory system, musculature. Because our entire body has all this muscle in the veins and in the arteries, and it helps pump the blood. The problem is we don't get in the cold enough. When you get in the cold, it causes that to constrict, and then when you get out of the cold, it dilates. if you don't ever let your body's temperature really fluctuate, that muscle isn't getting that kind of exercise.
Right.
And it atrophies, and what happens is then your heart has to work harder because the muscles that are supposed to help deliver the blood can't do it. So you use the cold also to strengthen your circulatory system,
Yeah.
which also helps with like fighting with your immune system. You know what I mean? There's so many different ins and outs of this method, so many benefits, but so simple. All you gotta do is breathe and get in the cold. You know, it's a gradual exposure, like I said, with me getting in the shower, and like I started with just my feet, then I went to my shins, and I worked my way up, like day after day. You know what I mean? I didn't do it in one session. I said I'll be back tomorrow, and then come the next day, and so forth.
Yeah.
And yeah, now I'm like up to like, I don't know, 8 minutes or something at 33 degrees in the water and feeling strong. And yeah, you know, this is something I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Since I started, I don't get sick anymore. Like I said, when I feel maybe like there's something going on, I just spend the time to breathe it away, like Wim did with the E. coli, and then I feel better. And it's funny because since I've been in Miami, I actually was with someone that was feeling totally under the weather, like really ill. I even heard her father say, like, hey, you want to go to the check-in at the hospital? I mean, literally, he said that, and he's a nurse, so she was sick. I said, hey, do you want to try the breathing? So we did 3 rounds of breathing. I kid you not, after she honestly said she felt better.
Yeah.
And I said, well, look, now I just gave you the opportunity to keep feeling better. It's up for you to now do it, you know, and that's how this kind of goes, is that once you get the method, you know, you get it, and it's up to you to do it. Now, so I asked this to Wim. I personally asked Wim, I said, if you start the method and you start feeling the health benefits, is there potential for you to regress? You know, like, is there the potential that you don't want to do it anymore? You don't feel the flow urge to just keep breathing.
Right.
And you know what he said? He said, if you condition the body chemically, so every time you do the breathing, you're changing the chemistry of your body. You do that over time, that's called conditioning, and you change that body's chemistry and conditioning by doing it over time. He goes, if you recondition the body by doing the breathing, then the mind will begin to recondition, because the mind is noticing that the body's constantly going to a better state, a healthier state. And the mind's like, wow, I like how that feels. I like being there. Maybe I should keep practicing. And so what he said is, you won't really regress. You'll just think about like, wow, it's so much nicer being there, practicing the method, that you'll want to continue. And personally, since I started it last March, 2016, you know, I've been pretty consistent with it. I try to do it every morning, 5 rounds. I finish with an inverted round. So like after I do my 5 rounds, this is crazy. Well, I think it's kind of cool. When you do the breathing, you cause your circulatory system to constrict and dilate. So after doing hyperventilation, your circulatory system is actually in a constricted kind of like, vasoconstriction. As you hold your breath and you begin to develop CO2, your CO2 levels are picking up from holding it, your circulatory system begins to vasodilate, because it's preparing the blood system to take oxygenated blood and drive it right to the cells. So what you do by doing hyperventilation is you take it, you constrict it, you hold your breath, and then you dilate it. So as you do this breathing rounds, you're taking your circulatory system and opening it and closing it, opening and closing it, strengthening your muscles without the cold. See, so you can do both. But the cold makes it even more potent. But what I do every day is I do 5 rounds, and by the 5th round I'm super energized, I'm charged, like he calls it being charged. And you just feel the static electricity that you've generated from breathing heavily and getting your cells oxygenated. They're filled with energy, ATP. And I then go into a headstand, and I do the breathing hold retention inverted. So then I have all the blood from gravity running down into my head as I'm in a headstand. And then as I'm holding my breath, my circulatory system is vasodilating while having the blood gravity pushing it into my head.
Yeah.
So I think it's really giving my brain and all my glands the opportunity to like process the blood. You know, I found out from Thomas Myers, this is cool, our pituitary gland sits there at the circulatory system and it just tastes the blood. It's the sampler. You know, it's like, oh, it needs more sodium. Oh, it needs more testosterone. Oh, it needs more of this.
Yeah.
And that's the pituitary gland. So what I'm doing is I'm flipping over. I'm letting my body vasodilate and get a flush of blood through my glands in my head.
Yeah.
And then do another breathing so I vasoconstrict. And then, again, hold my breath and let that vasodilate. And I do about 2 rounds of that. And then I get my day started. And man, when I do that, I feel good. You know, like with my eyes closed, you know, you get right into your pineal gland. You know, you could see your chakra. You know, I get a purple aura going on, spinning, whatever. And it's pretty much immediate after doing that. Or you see a white light, and yeah, Wim is calling that your pineal gland. So that's the static electricity from the brain gland, like shooting it into your head, and you're just like closed eye viewing that. So when you do the breathing, you can actually release DMT, and you can see colors. So how about this? While we were out in Colorado in the master's course, wow, we did an hour breathing session.
Yeah.
Man. So we did this hour-long breathing session.
Yeah.
And it was purposefully to release DMT. So like there's a different breathing protocol that we have through the Wim Hof Method that helps stimulate supposedly the release of DMT in your brain. Now it may not be the same DMT as in ayahuasca, like if you go to the Amazon and they make you the tea and you drink that and you trip out. It might be a different version of it, but that's what they're researching right now. You know, he's working with Harvard and he's working with the spirit molecule people to like really, you know, figure out what he's doing with the method versus what ayahuasca does. You know, right. We're trying to, you know, hash it all out. Man, intense. I saw the colors, man. It was like if you had set up a lens and you had like a camera shooting at the lens, like a glass lens, and you just got like food coloring and you just like poured it down on the glass lens, so you could just see it like splattering different colors, greens, purples, whatever, just put constant, just like a fountain of splattering of rainbow colors onto a lens. And that was what I was looking at in my eyes, like closed eyes in my head as we're doing this breathing. And so the breathing is you really hyperventilate, you get really start to stimulate yourself so you're so charged, and then you drive that up your spinal cord, up into your head, and it literally, you imagine you're directing it right to your pineal gland. And you supposedly channel that static electricity up your spinal cord like an electrical cord, and you blast off. So we did rounds and rounds and rounds of this breathing with the move of like driving up our spine. And wow, man. I mean, what an experience. I mean, at one point, at another one, I started crying. Like a full-blown, just hysterical cry. And it was, I couldn't tell you what caused it. You know, it was like, it just came out of me. And that's what they claim happens. You know, I'm in this room and there's guys that are like sounding like, you know, they're blissfully, you know, kind of orgasmic, you know, during the breathing. But then there's other guys that are yelling, like getting like energy, anger out, cleansing. And some people were crying. And like I ended up, in the beginning, hearing people cry, I was like, why are they crying? You know, like where's that energy coming? Because I wasn't feeling that. And then all of a sudden, for me, like it just came out of nowhere, and I just cried and cried. And I tried to keep breathing, but it was like I was so charged, and just couldn't do anything but cry.
Yeah.
And afterwards, I felt great. You know, it was like a real deep cleanse. And Wim says that's what happens. You know, when you release DMT, supposedly you release DMT for your body to emotionally process things. So it's like you've had a stressful day. When you go to sleep, you secrete DMT so that your body can just like process that whole stressful event and like put it away.
Yeah.
But most people don't get that good release anymore. So if you do the breathing, you could artificially stimulate, you know, the release and get, you know, those inhibitions, those deep, you know, lingering stresses that are hidden and that you don't know about. And you just chemically force them to dissolve. And that's what I did, I think, personally. Plus the colors, you know, like, I mean, it was just an awesome experience for 1 hour. And so now, like, as an instructor, I can take people through the same experience.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, that's the plan. And that's the benefit, is because so many people need it. They need to get that release. They need a... Wim is trying to empower people. You know, this is a self-empowerment method. It has nothing to do with, like, trying to get you locked into a system. You know, once you know the method, you're free.
Right.
You know, for me, I feel way more free. Like, if you threw me out into the cold right now, you know, we're in Miami, it's like, what, 70 degrees, 75, 80, 78?
Yeah.
Breeze, sun setting, beautiful. Everywhere else in the country right now is frozen. Right? It's like 30 degrees everywhere else. Well, if you threw me out there right now, I think I would be fine. Like, until something happened, you know, like, I would just make it work.
Yeah.
And I think most people don't even know where to start. And since I started the method, I just feel safe. Like, any environment. Throw me in and I'll be okay. Because I've been okay so far. And then, now that I know that I can deal with colds, like a sickness, a flu, you know, I could be around people coughing and stuff and know that, like, at the end of the day, we're always being infected. That's what I've also learned, is we're constantly dealing with little viruses and bugs and things. The thing is we're always winning.
Right.
Our body's always better. It's saying, like, not today.
Yeah.
But when you do get sick, your body just lost the battle. Didn't mean it lost the war, unless you're really, like, you're not following through with health, you know, rehabilitation to get out from being sick.
Right.
But for the most part, you just lost the battle, and you'll always end up winning the war, because we're always winning with our immune system. Well, the Wim Hof method teaches you how to, like, guarantee that. You know, like, you just breathe, change your chemistry so that sickness can't be present. You know, like, you change the chemistry so that you don't have pain. You know, you could change the pH level. So if we have acidic and you have basic, you know, 0 to 14, or 0 to 14, and 7 is in the middle, and that's neutral. You know, we're a little above neutral, supposedly. You know, we're supposed to be a little bit more alkaline.
Right.
What ends up happening with our diets, our stressful environments, we are always more likely acidic. Now you can get a little pee strip and test it and see where you're at. They're showing with the Wim Hof method that, like, after like 3 rounds or more, I think is the number, if you re-pee on the test, you'll be more alkaline immediately. I mean, that's like 10 minutes or more, 10 minutes or less of well, I would say probably 15 minutes of breathing. Yeah. You will adjust your alkalinity in your body. And this is, crazy. And they've shown this now with science. And they also showed that at a certain level of alkalinity, the pain proteins that are like 3 of them coupled together, they break apart. And when they break apart, you don't get a pain signal. And so, like, you breathe and breathe and breathe, and then you dissolve the pain. So, like, the reason we do the breathing with the cold is because it helps dissolve the pain from the cold sensation. So when you get in the cold, you get a message that says, hey, it's cold, but you also get a message that says, hey, man, that hurts, it's cold, get out. Yeah. But if you do the breathing, you just get the message that says, hey, it's cold, and you don't end up getting the pain part. So it makes it more bearable. Yeah. Like, yeah, man, it's really cold, for sure. Yeah. It's just like you get to bear with it more, deal with it. You get to handle it. And then by practicing that over time, you become like a master of dealing with stress.
Right.
So for me, that was one of the biggest things I've noticed is like I could just have a larger capacity to deal with stressful environments. You know, like getting in the cold is super duper in stress. You know, every time, you know, you're releasing a large amount of adrenaline, endorphins, huge. So by doing that in a controlled way, then when you're out on the street and something happens around you, then when you get that little stimulation of adrenaline, you can actually consume it correctly. You know, you can actually process it correctly and deal with it. And so, like, for me, that's been one of the biggest benefits of the method is that, like, wow, now I can handle stress so much better. I feel way more confident. I feel way more cool with dealing with things. And that's since I started the method. You know, like, I'm just way less angst. And if I feel anxiety, then I can just sit there and do the breathing. And then after 3 rounds, I feel better. And then it's like you can't stay feeling bad because you like literally change the chemical environment. And your brain like recognizes it and it just like changes your thoughts. You know, like you can't have negative thoughts in that kind of environment.
Right. That's pretty crazy. Awesome.
Yeah, and so like he figured this out. He figured that out, man. The other Wim Hof instructors are scattered all over the country. So we got some in Oregon, California, Washington State, New York, Tennessee. I'm in Florida. Some in the Midwest, and that's pretty much it. And 2 guys from Canada. And I guess that we're all doing the same thing, which is that like we're going to start getting our groups together and start doing the breathing and getting in the cold. You know, start doing our workshops, start getting the material out.
But are these people that gave up their jobs to go do this?
So some people have. Some people have quit their jobs to pursue this full time. Okay. Some people wish that this was around earlier to pursue before their previous career. Yeah. So that was interesting to see. But like some people are just doing this as a side thing. But there's all walks of life, you know, like one guy, his name's Gabriel, and he travels internationally teaching people about nutrition and like a holistic approach to like mentality and diet and just body care. But he says that he's going to take on the Wim Hof Method as like one of his main platforms for his product. And like for me too, like personally, I think that this should be bare minimum knowledge for everyone. Yeah. And then if you're interested in further developing your health and fitness, then you could do other practices. You know, like if you want to go further in the yoga, fine. You want to go into weightlifting or any kind of movement practice, gymnastics. Yeah, so I think the Wim Hof Method is important for everyone, especially athletes, performance athletes. They're showing that with the, I think, Olympic rowers, they did the breathing before the race, and they said that they didn't feel any kind of tiredness until like 300 meters or some crazy part of the race. They had been going and going without ever feeling soreness yet, lactic acid buildup. Right. And that's another thing is when you hyper-oxygenate your body, you can go a lot longer. I mean, like, that's part of the method is showing you that you can do that. You know, we can do a push-up little routine that will demonstrate immediately that by doing the breathing, you'll increase your performance with your push-ups. And so I use that as a way to show people, give them a gauge, like, look, immediately your performance goes up. Yeah. So anyone that's into, like, football, lacrosse, any kind of endurance sports, you know, doing this breathing would be beneficial for them. You know, also, when you strengthen the circulatory system and you give your heart the opportunity to not work as hard, your heart rate goes down. You're like a fine-tuned Ferrari, you know, or a Lamborghini. You're there just sitting ready to go, primed up, you know. And then when it's time to perform, because you're already sitting at a lower baseline, you got more elevation to climb. You know, you're not going to gas out quicker.
Yeah.
And so there's that. I mean, that's just with performance. But the main thing Wim is trying to give people is just health,
Right.
which is giving, and happiness. You know, he wants to help eliminate depression. So people that say they're depressed, you know, most of them are getting prescriptions. And this will potentially give them the opportunity to try another method.
Yeah.
And maybe do it with the medication, and then maybe wean themselves off the medication if they progress using the method. But I'm not saying it's a replacement. All I'm saying is that, like, you know, it gives them another option
Right.
to try. You know, and in a world where we need more options and better options, you know, why not try something new? So that's Wim's real message, is to help people mentally and then physically, which is like, wow, how cool would it be for your kids to teach them something that, like, when they are little kids, they just won't get sick anymore.
Yeah.
And that could help with their brain and help keep them balanced, help keep them mentally balanced.
Right.
You know, that's the other thing is, when you do the breathing and you're taking your body, skyrocketing it with adrenaline and then calming it down and skyrocketing it, you know, we're going from parasympathetic, which is rest and digest, and then sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight.
Right.
So that's like at one extreme and the other one's like a rest. By doing the breathing, you take yourself through that, and in a controlled way. So for people that may be out of balance and their hormones are kind of stimulated wrong and they're overly in the sympathetic, stressful nervous system, like they're not giving themselves the opportunity to shut down.
Right.
They're constantly wired. If you use the method and practice it, you recondition, you're actually going to retrain the body how to remember how to shut down. So you have someone that comes home from work, hard day at work, they get home, they turn on the news, and the news is like, woo, 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 this person had an accident, and, you know, this company's doing that, and, you know, it's chaos. So that stresses you out. Then you know, most people nowadays get on their smartphones or their tablets, and then they get blue light from the screen, which is supposed to be not the best option of light for our eyes and our glands as we're getting ready to go to sleep. See, blue light is supposed to be for the morning time as you know, rising for the day, and that helps stimulate the hormones for getting your day going. But when we're going to sleep, we don't want that.
Right.
So here's the scenario again. You got someone coming home from work, they're stressed out. They get home, they watch the news, that's stressful. They go and they check their emails, they get the light, that's stressful. Then they say, I'm going to go to sleep. Well, guess what? Maybe the reason why they're getting a bad night of sleep is because they're not letting their bodies shut down.
Right.
Or if they are getting okay sleep, but they just feel some kind of imbalance, doing the breathing could help rebalance, combat that, you know. And in a circumstances like we have where everyone's got TVs now and tablets and cell phones and they love to watch them when they go to sleep, you know, this would at least give them a better leg up maybe on how to, like, deal with that.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's crazy. I mean, I'm just so happy to be a part of this group of people that are going to start to infuse this back into humankind. And, you know, suppose this has been around, and Wim says this is from nature.
Yeah.
You know, that's the other cool thing. He's like, I didn't learn this from a book.
Right.
I didn't learn this from a guru. I didn't go pay someone to tell me something. He goes, all I did was go into the cold water, and by going into the cold water, I learned how to feel my body. And he felt the way it adapted, and he felt the way it changed his breathing, and he felt how it changed his mind. And this is what he realized at like 18, and now he's 57. So he's been doing this forever,
Yeah.
but no one wanted to take it serious. And now science is finally catching up to show that this is legit.
Yeah.
And I'm just so happy and excited to be, like, a part of this. And then the coolest thing is, like, you know, working with Living Web Farms, Wim's message just goes with our message of Living Web Farms, which is that we're trying to provide what's basic, which is like natural, which is God-given, which is like, this is how you stay healthy, and then this is how you make healthy food. You know, this is how you treat the land. This is how you treat animals. This is how we harvest. This is how we rejuvenate and rehabilitate the soil and the life, and putting biochar into the ground, and just trying to curate a healthy life to live in. And so, like, I'm so happy that I get to bring the Wim Hof method through Living Web Farms. You know, I think Wim is on board with that too. You know, Wim's intentions are with love, and so he wants to create a beautiful, you know, place on this planet for his children and their children and those children before to live in.
Yeah.
And so this method is just like a quick way to say, like, just when you're feeling stressed, son or daughter or whoever, sister, brother, sit down and do some breathing. You know, spend 10 minutes, invest into yourself, and you'll feel better. I bet you. And then, yeah, it's just wild. And then, you know, we're just trying to provide a platform to help people see how simple it is to do organic farming, and do it in a regenerative way, you know, taking care of the environment. And yeah, it's awesome. It's really awesome. And I'm excited to do workshops at Living Web Farms, because, you know, here in Miami it's not really that cold, and over in Mills River on the property is a beautiful river. You know, there's some deep swimming holes, and I would love to go up there and put on some workshops and teach at the Learning Center, you know, the method. And, you know, Asheville, North Carolina is a great area with people all about health. You got all these yoga nuts, you know, these herbalists, all these different people about health. And, you know, the Wim Hof method is perfect. And it's the craziest thing about it. This is awesome. There's 2 Wim Hof instructors right next to Mills River, where I stay. Yes, Robert and Luke, and they're right in the neighborhood. And so, you know, I think it'd be kind of cool if we could coordinate a giant Wim Hof, you know, workshop with 3 instructors that are all about movement. And Rob, yeah, he's about yoga slack lines. So he gets a slack line and he does acro yoga on the slack line. It's so rad, man. It's super cool. I mean, it's intense. He showed me like how to do this pendulum balance while we're out there. We tied a slack line in between these giant wooden pillars in the building, and we were there balancing, and everyone was just having a blast, man. It was one of the best weeks of my life. You know, honestly, I didn't want to leave. You know, other people had families, they have kids, and I get it, they wanted to go be with their family. But for me, on the other hand, who's young, single, you know, no debt, just, you know, trying to grow as a person, for me, I didn't want it to end. I loved every single person there, and I thought that I was having the best time of my life. So that was that, and now I got Luke and Rob right in the neighborhood next to Mills River. And I think it's going to be awesome at Living Web Farms to show some Wim Hof stuff. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. I even talked to Wim about it. Yeah. You know, Wim thought it was a great idea too, man, because he's all about, you know, helping the environment, helping people.
Where does he, like, live? In Colorado?
Who, Wim Hof?
Yeah.
Ooh, so Wim lives in the Netherlands.
Oh, shit.
Okay. Yeah. Amsterdam area, you know. Yeah, he's crazy Dutchman. You know, his spirit is awesome. Yeah. His unbelievable energy. And, yeah, that's always my main thing. I wanted to meet him. You know, I wanted to, when I heard him on Tim Ferriss's podcast, I knew I had to learn more about him. So then I started getting on YouTube, and I started looking at all the documentaries. I'm like, what? Who is this human being? Yeah. Like, this is out of control. I knew I needed to, like, go in person and meet him. Like, I wanted to hug him, share his energy, like, be with him as a man, and, like, feel that confidence that guy has. I mean, like, crazy. Climbs Mount Everest in shorts, you know? Like, who does that? Wim does, you know? So, that was the beginning. You know, after that, I tracked him down, found out that they started the academy in the U.S., signed up for that, got accepted. That was the cool thing about it, is that they accepted me. I heard that some applicants may not have gotten in, and you know, it's just a blessing. I'm just so excited and grateful, and like I just can't wait to share this with everyone. And yeah, so I got to meet Wim and share his energy, and now I'm like, you know, I'm trying to channel that and, you know, share it with other people. Yeah, so that was that, and yeah.